Hey everyone, happy Monday. Wow, what a weekend in LA in particular. And for those of you who don't know, I live in LA. And between the fires in January and these riots now, man, it's like there's always something destructive going on here. But let's break it down. Hey everyone, I'm Kaizen. As you know, I am back with another nuanced live stream. For those of you who don't know, we do these every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. And it's an opportunity for you to get to hear some of my long form thoughts on what's going on. And I want to clarify a few things before I jump in, and this will actually give people time to filter in before we get into the main event. I talk about how I view myself versus maybe how people view me. And I get that one's identity isn't totally determined by oneself, right? So there's how I view myself, but if the world views me differently, I have to reckon with that as well. But every now and then, people will make a comment like, oh, I appreciate that you're unbiased, or I appreciate that you're impartial, or I appreciate that you're neutral. And although I appreciate the place that people are coming from when they say that, I'm none of those things. I strive for nuance. I am not neutral. I am a human being with my own opinions, my own biases, some of them conscious, some of them unconscious. And I am in my own process of evolution and trying to seek the truth. And I just happen to be doing that in public. I'm also not a journalist. I think the best term to describe me is a thought leader, even though it still sounds a bit self-aggrandizing sometimes to say that, but a thought leader. I'm someone who has a big platform and I share my thoughts on the things that are interesting to me. And I'm not a news source, but I can see how people might feel that way because I try to hold myself to a high standard in whatever I say. So I research everything I say very vigorously to try to make sure that I'm reporting as accurately as I can. The reason I mention all that is because sometimes the opinions that I give are a break from what people in my following expect. And that's inevitable, right? Like, we're not all going to think the same things. We're not all going to agree on the same thing. But sometimes I see people say stuff like, oh, I'm disappointed. And if someone is disappointed, it means that their expectations of me did not match the reality of me. And there's going to be times where I disappoint you because I just have an opinion that you don't like and you thought that maybe I shared all the same opinions and I don't. And then there's going to be times when I genuinely represent something in a way that you don't like. And I try to always represent things as honestly as I can. There are also times that I make mistakes. So yesterday, I actually made one such mistake on X specifically. I mentioned in the headline for my little video, it was the video that I did that was just like a short aftermath video. It wasn't like my opinion video. So I posted it yesterday and I said I went to the protest in LA. And that is misleading because what I did is I went to a protest. For those of you who don't know what's going on in LA, there are multiple demonstrations going on against Trump's deportations and forced deportations in particular. I went to the protest that was organized and planned at downtown City Hall on June 8th. So that's what I went to. I did not go to one of the demonstrations or riots or whatever you want to call it that you saw on social media on the Friday or on Saturday. I went on Sunday. So that's just to make that super clear. And I did clarify in a comment, hey, I went to a protest and other protests might have been different, but the one that I went to was peaceful while I was there. And then I realized today, I was like, why are so many people like saying that I'm being misleading? It's like, oh, because they think, I guess they think that all of the protests in LA are one thing, but they're not. There's a bunch of different events. Some of them are organized, some of them are spontaneous, and I did not go to all of them. I went to one. So I just want to make sure you understand that. I acknowledge that. I see how it could be misleading. I hope you still found the video valuable though, because honestly, I just shared it because I thought it was interesting. I thought it was just really interesting to actually go into a crowd that I normally don't spend a lot of time with, people, the kind of people who would go out and protest in LA on a Sunday about illegal immigration deportations. And I'm going to share some of my just like speculative thoughts and observations from that. But yeah, just please don't view me as an impartial news source. Don't view me as someone who's purely objective. My personal belief is no one can be purely objective. We are all subjects, so we all have subjective experiences. We can strive for objectivity, which I think some people do more than others, and I like to think that I strive a lot for it, but I'm not neutral. I strive for nuance, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. So With that said, let's talk about what's going on in LA, and then let's talk about Trump's overall deportation strategy. And the first thing is, I'm just seeing a lot of confusion in on social media, in my audience, about like what's going on, and I see a lack of nuanced thinking being expressed. And the first thing I want people to understand is LA is a city of millions and millions of people. Okay. Where I live in LA and the areas I hang out, there's nothing going on. Like if you didn't turn on the news, you wouldn't even know that the protests and the raids and the deportations were going on. On social media, what always happens, no matter whether we're talking about an issue on the left or the right, is the most extreme instances get amplified. Why? Because we are all naturally responsive to emotional extremes. And the mainstream media knows that. That's why they're always talking about things that are bad that is happening. They're always talking about people dying. They're always talking about disasters. And it's the same thing on social media, even though on social media there's not as much intentionality, it's more organic. All humans have a negativity bias, and we all have a bias toward the extreme. So we get biased toward negative extremes. Now, do I 100% know what percentage of the demonstrations in LA are peaceful versus violent? No, I don't. Again, I went to one. I have an N of one. My sample size is one. That said, based on the research that I have done, looking at multiple news outlets, looking at social media, the majority of the protests are peaceful. That said, the violence that's happening, whether it's 1% of the protests or 50% of the protests, is unacceptable. Duh. Violence is always unacceptable. The reason why we have civil society is because we don't do things through violent means. I want to make that super clear. And I made it very clear in my video. I said we should take a hard line against violence. I want to reiterate that here too. We should take a hard line against violence. But what you need to do and I need to do is make sure that we don't engage in what's called group attribution error. This is a logical fallacy where we take a percentage of the group and we project that on the entire group. And this has happened to the right a lot. And I know a lot of my viewers are on the right. Remember when January 6th happened? Then everyone on the left is saying it is a basket of deplorables. All of Trump's people's like this. It's all a bunch of fascists. It's all a bunch of racists. It's all a bunch of white supremacists. It was equally unfair when people did that in response to January 6th. And it's unfair when people are doing that in response to what people on the left are doing right now. And that said, although it happens on both sides, I think it happens to a different degree on both sides, because I do think there is more violence on the left. I think that we saw this with the Black Lives Matter protests, even though the majority of them were peaceful. There was a significant degree of them that were violent. I experienced that in LA. I know it happened in Seattle. I think it also happened in Minnesota too. So yeah, for whatever reason, and we can get into the reasons why, I think there's more violence on the left. Actually, screw it. Let's just get into it right now. Why do I speculate that there's more violence on the left? Well, first, I want to give you some background so you guys know where I'm coming from, because I feel like I have some personal experience that informs my view here. And it doesn't mean that you should just take it because I'm saying it, but I want you to understand the perspective I'm coming from. I'm Black. I went to Harvard. I grew up in the Bronx. I lived in LA for the last 11 years. I worked in the tech industry. I see illegal immigrants multiple times a week. I see illegal immigrants taking care of my neighbors' properties. I see illegal immigrants waiting in parking lots to get work. I interact with illegal immigrants. Sometimes I say hi. I see these people around a lot. Okay. So that's part of it. In these very liberal areas where there's a lot of illegal immigrants, people who tend to be liberals because they live in urban areas, so urban areas tend to be more liberal, they actually see and interact with these people on a daily basis, right? So there's already a bias. You could say a bias, you could call it empathy, but there's already a relationship with these people such that you're seeing them every day, and it can be hard for people to imagine these people getting deported because they see they're just, most of them are just people. Are there violent criminals among illegal immigrants who entered the country and committed crimes, and if they hadn't been allowed to the country, would not have committed those crimes? Absolutely. And that's why I think when people see stuff like Lake and Riley, or they see any illegal immigrant doing anything, it's particularly abhorrent because it's like, wow, if we had just secured the border, this wouldn't have happened because this person wouldn't have been around. And I say that does not undermine the fact that, yes, illegal immigrants do not commit additional crimes on top of course, entering the country illegally. They don't commit crimes at a higher rate than at the average citizen. But the point is, even in absolute terms, the fact that any illegal immigrant gets to commit a crime here feels super bad because that person is just not supposed to be here. So going back to like my personal experience, part of why people feel very protective of illegal immigrants in cities like LA and New York City is because they actually are around these people. They're actually in communities. Some of them might even have relationships with them. The other thing about, I think, the leftist worldview, and I mean leftist purely descriptively, I mean this with no animosity whatsoever, and I used to be a leftist, is it's a very collectivist mindset. And that's not bad. It has its pros in that I think that's why the Democrats actually are very good at getting their agendas through Congress, whereas I think the Republican Congress people are not as united because they're more independently minded, whereas Democrats tend to be more tribal. And there's sort of like group values that it's like you kind of have to opt into if you're part of that broader community. And the reason, one evidence of that fact is when I went to the LA protests, obviously it was a protest about deportation and ICE raids and all that. But you know what I saw a lot? You know what the second most common flag was after the Mexican flag? Yeah, it wasn't the American flag, as you probably would guess. It was the Palestinian flag. So you could wonder to yourself, well, why? Why are we like, we're talking about a homeland domestic issue versus an issue thousands of miles away on the other side of the planet. And there's very few Palestinian people actually in LA. So why is there a Palestinian flag? Because it's part of the same worldview. Okay. And the worldview, there are signs that I think are actually pretty indicative of a worldview, where a lot of leftist people are, you would see signs like this is stolen land, right? Or no one is illegal on stolen land. You would see signs like no human is illegal. The contention is not that a human is illegal, but I see why people say that, because a lot of people on the right are calling illegal immigrants illegals, which I think is a pretty dehumanizing term, actually. That's why I try to stay away from that. Even saying illegal immigrant, I don't love saying, but it's, got to say something quickly. So it's like, yeah, the worldview is not actually even accepting of the idea that there should be borders. And then there's a general proclivity toward protecting whoever has less power in a dynamic. So in the Israel-Palestine dynamic, the Palestinians have the less power, right? Because Israel is a very advanced, very powerful, very militarized state, and the Palestinian people are not. It's a very third world country. In the case of illegal immigrants, these illegal immigrants, again, they don't have the power in the dynamic. They're coming from third world countries, Central and South America. They came here to try to have a better life. Doesn't mean they get to break into the country illegally, but the truth is they just have less power. So I think in general, people on the left gravitate toward whoever has less power. Same thing with Ukraine. I remember when the Russia invasion of Ukraine happened, immediately, before people even knew what was going on, there were protests, there were candlelight vigils, there were fundraisers, all in support of Ukraine. Is it because a bunch of Americans were following the Ukraine-Russia tensions closely for years and this was too far? No. Most of these people couldn't identify Ukraine on a map, but they look at it, and actually Kamala said this in a speech, I think during the campaign. Hey, look, Russia's a big country, Ukraine's a small country. And as people called her stupid for that comment, and I think it was a pretty overly simplistic comment. But yeah, I actually think it belied her worldview, which is like, you always side with the little guy. You always side with the little guy. And where that goes too far is you side with the little guy, even though the little guy is responsible for doing something illegal. And that's where I fall. It's like, I do see these illegal immigrants, and honestly, it's kind of hard. It's hard for me to like see them and be like, hey, I have like no personal animosity. It's not about race at all. I see that you're doing valuable work. I see that they're contributing to the economy. I see that the majority of them are really, or the ones I interact with are really hardworking. They're honest. They just want to be left alone to try to make a better life for themselves. And at the same time, I'm like, yeah, and you shouldn't be here because you broke the rules to come here, and that's not fair. And when we allow people to break the rules to come into the country, what does that do to the country? It erodes public trust. It breaks social cohesion. it has a slippery slope effect. It's like, if this person's breaking the rules to be in America, well, why should I follow the rules? Why should I pay my taxes? I went to Japan recently, 2 months ago, and in Japan, it's really fascinating because you walk around Tokyo, and this is a city. I think it's actually the biggest city in the world by population size. Maybe a Chinese city like Shanghai overtakes it, but I think it's even bigger than Manhattan. No trash on the ground. No one acting out in public. Almost no honking of the horn. You go on the escalator, everyone stands to the left and walks on the right. So orderly, beautiful, so harmonious. What do we have in America? It's not like that if you go to New York or LA. You get homeless people screaming at you, threatening to kill you. You get trash all over the floor, people spitting gum on the floor, people yelling, people honking their horns. And that's the other side of freedom, right? Because we have a culture that celebrates individualism and freedom. So in Japan, they don't have issues like illegal immigration. They don't have issues with crime really at all, because for them, it's like a 99% conviction rate. Like, if you get hit with a crime, like, you're done. Here, we don't have that. We're more loose with the rules. And I think the looseness and the more focus on freedom is good, right? Because that's what makes America the land of opportunity. But we've gone too far when we allow people to just enter the country illegally. And then we say, well, they're the smaller person and they don't have as much power and they just want to have a better life. It's like, yeah, well, the reason that they can have a better life in America is because America is a land with important principles and rules that we all follow, unlike a lot of the places that these people are coming from. So these people are coming from failed states where there's not good rule of law, there's not good law and order, and people are suffering and people are leaving because they don't want to be in their home country. So why would we create the same issue that they're fleeing from? So probably a lot of my crowd doesn't need to hear that articulation because you probably agree with me on that point. But hopefully the way I've said it helped clarify it for you, because there's a fundamental divide between the left and the right on what we should do with the people who are already here. I think there was more alignment on, hey, we need to lock down the border. I think there are many people on the left who are like, yeah, we need to lock down the border. I don't think they were as passionate about the issue, but I think a lot of them would agree. And then, there are people who are far left. Like, I have a friend who's far left and she's like, she doesn't even believe in borders. And it's like, yeah, I think you're crazy. I completely disagree. I don't think you can have a functional country without borders. But yeah, I know people who believe that too. So, yeah, for me, it's actually not about economics. Yes, illegal immigrants do contribute a lot to the economy. And in many cases, they contribute more in taxes because they do pay some taxes, right? Like sales tax. And there are some payroll taxes depending on the business. Then they take in benefits because they legally can't get a lot of the benefits. And it's not about economics for me. It's about fairness and about creating a fundamental structure for our society where everyone believes that America is a fair place and we get along because of it. And look what happens when we think things are not fair in this country. Hello, that's what BLM was all about. People had the perception that America is racist and it's not a good place to be Black, and people were extremely upset about it. Anytime there's a perception of unfairness in America, it erodes social cohesion. So we should not be allowing 10 to 20 million people to be here unfairly. It's objectively unfair. Objectively, if you believe in borders. If you don't believe in borders, it's not much to talk about. So anyway, talking about more of the protests. Yeah, I saw Mexican flags. I saw Palestinian flags. I did see some American flags. They were definitely in the minority. And I spoke to two people who were holding the American flags. And I just asked them straight up, hey, I'm curious, why are you holding an American flag? And for those people, I would actually call them patriots. And they, from their perspective, the right is evil fascist, just like from the right's perspective, the left are evil communists and Marxists, right? Sound familiar? And they didn't want the flag to belong to the bad guys. And I was like, well, I think you're demonizing the other side, but I get it. And I'm glad that at least you care about your country enough to wave your flag rather than the flag of a foreign country. It's like, why are we waving Mexican flags at all? It's super weird to me. Other things I observed, maybe I'll post the video later, but I interviewed this guy. I just asked him, he was a guy, he was wearing a Palestinian keffiyeh and visors and rolling around on a skateboard. And he had a flag, a Palestine flag, Free Palestine flag, and he had some Irish text on it. And I asked him, like, why do you have Irish text? Like, what does that mean? And he said, free Ireland, like it's like basically what Irish people, I guess, when they were under the yoke of the United Kingdom, would say when they were trying to get freedom. It was that sort of statement. So it was like free Ireland, but on a Palestinian flag, and also F Biden. And I asked him, I was like, why F Biden? He's like, well, Biden is Irish person and he's forgotten his roots and he should be fighting for the underdog or something like that. So it was just interesting. But again, it just gives insight into the leftist ideology. And again, I'm really saying all of this just purely descriptively because I just want this to be a portal for you guys. I know a lot of you don't live in these areas. You don't interact with leftists very often into how these people think. And I think it's actually important to just descriptively understand how these people think so that we stop demonizing people so much, because that's what I see happening so much, like all this extremism. So let me point out some errors in thinking here, guys, because this is super important. Not all the protests are violent. If you're viewing things on the internet, you're always viewing the most extreme. The ones that are violent are unacceptable, but not every leftist is violent. But too many leftists are violent or sympathetic, or at least not taking a hard line against violence. And we see Democratic senators and Congress people and leaders like celebrate when Trump got shot, or kind of subtly celebrate it. Or I had a neighbor mention to me, I hope Trump chokes on a hamburger. And then I had a neighbor storm onto my property because he heard me making a video and he thought I was saying something that opposed his worldview. And he came to harangue me and lecture me about Trump and Fox News when I don't even watch Fox News. So yeah, I do think there's too much sympathy to violence. And I want to explain why. Imagine your whole worldview is based on power. Everything is based on power. The small person with less power is always in the right. The big person with more power is always in the wrong. So white people are wrong, males are wrong, America is wrong, because those are the people who have the most power. Well, by that worldview, it actually, you become obligated to resist by any means necessary people who are infringing upon the power, infringing upon the not even the rights, just the experience of the person with less power. That's how the worldview operates. And by that worldview, it's like, yeah, people will say stuff like, oh, Hamas, yeah, well, they're resistance, they're freedom fighters. Or they'll say, yeah, we should be violent, we should vandalize property, we should burn cars, we should attack ICE agents because this is a resistant movement against an oppressor. That's how a lot of these people think. So that's why I believe there's more violence on the left, because fundamentally the worldview is, hey, and you'll even see this if you go into some of this social theory, they'll call like words violence, or they'll call anything that causes someone to feel unsafe violence. And in the face of any of that, physical violence becomes justified in their eyes. So I think that's actually a pretty fair articulation. And again, I've run in some very liberal circles in my time. Like at Harvard, I was in what was it called? Actually, I don't want to call them out. It's unnecessary. But yeah, I was in like some pretty liberal circles, and there's a lot of well-meaning people. And I think it's healthy to have both left and the right in this country. And there's a point where the left goes too far to the left, just like the right can go too far to the right. And right now, I think we definitely suffer more from the left going too far to the left than the right going too far to the right. Cool. So I know the chat has been flying, but I'm ripping right now. So we're going to just keep on going. So I might not get to too many questions. I actually have to go at 1:45. I want to clarify and push back on what some people were saying about my video. So for those of you who don't know, if you want to go to my X profile or my Instagram, I posted a video today just giving my opinion on the way that Trump is going about the deportations. I want this to be the last time I have to say this. I'm opposed to violence. If someone is being violent, they need to be forcefully restrained, period. I want every person who is in the country illegally to leave, okay? With that being the goal, there are more and less effective ways to do that. You need to, when working with humans, to use both carrot and stick. The more that you resort to force, the more you are met with an equal and opposite force. This doesn't justify violence. It's simply a recognition that, hey, the more we rely on ICE raids, the more disruption and chaos there will be, the more people will become extreme, and the more they will get violent in return. And we can say, oh, this has been manufactured by George Soros and it's just propaganda. No, it's not. It's just not. There are millions of people who oppose deportations. Is there a subset of those millions of people who are paid agents and deep state operatives? Yeah, of course. Is there a subset of those people who are genuine Marxists who hate America? Yes, of course. And again, group attribution error. Don't say that because this exists in the group, it's representative of the whole group. It would be like saying that the white supremacists who were at, you guys remember that thing in Charlottesville that happened where people, they were fighting over taking down, I think it was a statue of Robert E. Lee, that they represent all the right. No, they don't. So we need to think in proportions, not binary. And yet that group of violent provocateurs is disproportionately influential on the left right now for the reasons I mentioned before. The national mood is extremely tense. Okay, I've never seen the country this tense, not in my lifetime. Maybe it was like this during the Vietnam War, but I can't think of another time when it was like this. So if you're a leader, what's your responsibility? Your responsibility is to accomplish the task. And I think that Trump, again, should deport everyone who's here illegally and restore law and order. And to do that as effectively as possible. That requires both a logically sound approach and an emotionally intelligently sound approach. Because if you force someone to do something, you are more likely to get force in reaction. If you incentivize someone to do something, it's more likely to go down smoothly. This is why, by the way, Obama had more deportations than Trump during his first term. And for some, not even for some reason, I'm going to tell you the reason why it was much more quiet. Yes, some people have identified that legacy media is left-leaning. And that's part of the reason that Obama didn't get as much flack for doing what he did and erecting child cages, and there were family separations and those things. But frankly, a lot of it was because Obama acted in a way that was more emotionally intelligent than Trump does in his rhetoric. And I know that many of you love how Trump is honest and how he's very authentic, and I like that too. And he's the kind of guy I think it'll be fun to hang out with. And there's a time for that. Like I liked it when he did it with Zelensky, by the way. And there's a time when you don't do that. When it's your own country and your own people, and you recognize that people are scared. And when people are scared, they're likely to act irrational. Grace is needed. And I don't think Trump has been graceful here. And although I think ICE raids are a genuine, legitimate tool that should be used in the toolkit of accomplishing the goal, it is a tool that needs to be a last resort. And I am not confident that we've exhausted every other option. What are the other options? First one is you crack down on employers who are employing illegal immigrants. Why? Because if illegal immigrants are coming to America, it's because they have an incentive to work in America because they know they can get work. So I would be in support of going as far as saying, hey, if you are found employing an illegal immigrant, you're going to prison. Not just getting a fine, you're going to prison. That would end illegal immigration employment real quick. And then if you're an illegal immigrant and you're here in the country and you can't get work, how attractive is it to stay in America? So that's step one. Second thing, stop giving illegal immigrants benefits. Do I want them to get sick and die? Of course not. But it doesn't make sense to give them social services, because if they get social services here, then it incentivizes them to stay here. Now, if someone comes to the hospital bleeding and about to die, of course we should take care of them, because that's just a humane thing to do. But no, we should not be giving them like any access to welfare programs or SNAP or any of these other things. Doesn't make any sense. We need to make it more attractive for them to stay in their own country than to stay here. So that's the second thing. I wish I included that one in the video, but got limited time. Third thing. What is the third thing? Hold on. Someone help me. What's the third thing? I said it in my video. Who's a good student in the front of the class? Raise your hand. Okay. The third thing. There we go. Encourage self-deportation as much as possible. I really liked it when the Trump administration offered $1,000 per legal immigrant to self-deport. I think that needs to be ratcheted up, because let's look at this mathematically. People are saying stuff like we shouldn't be rewarding illegal immigrants. Look, there's no world where you're rewarded, where getting uprooted from your family and community and needing to leave America on sudden notice and go back to the country that you fled because the country is a failed state is a reward. Okay, let's just understand that this is not a reward, giving people money to leave. It's an incentive, because they're not going to just leave because we ask them nicely. Okay, so it's either we incentivize them to leave by making it hard to be here and making it more attractive to leave, or we forcefully deport them and it costs $17,000 per person. If we're serious about doing this, why wouldn't we do it in the way that's less expensive and in a way that honestly generates some goodwill? Because it's not a good look for America to the rest of the world or to half the country to have ICE doing raids and to have police showdowns and reporters getting shot with rubber bullets and fires. And I know it's not the violent protesters are the ones choosing to start the fires, but we're creating the conditions where force is required. So let's stop doing that, and let's make this as easeful and graceful as possible by incentivizing them, because it costs us money to kick them out. So let's give them money and they show themselves out. And I would be in favor of giving them $10,000 to leave if it costs us $17,000, because it costs us money to keep them here. It costs us money to kick them out. So yeah, I'm in total favor. Like, they offered $1,000. That's not nearly enough. Some of these guys, they make $1,000 in a week. You got to give them more. You got to give them enough so that they go back home, and it just feels better, because like now you actually have the moral high ground over people who are saying it's just a bunch of fascists who are racist and they hate Mexicans. And B, yeah, in the eyes of the world, you get to actually have some moral authority. And I actually do think that's important. I know there's kind of this like national mood of F the worst of the world, we're America, we don't care. But, you know, we got to work with our neighbors too. And it's good for our neighbors in Mexico too, by the way, or these other foreign nations, to see that, yeah, like, we recognize that these are human beings. They're just not human beings that can stay here. So we're going to help them get a soft landing. So let me just pause. Do you guys see how this can be a more effective, scalable approach than trying to do ICE raids on 10 to 20 million illegal immigrants? Because guess what? At $17,000, this much resistance every time there's a raid, and illegal immigrants having half the country supporting them, and it's going to get to the point, honestly, where people are willing to like house them and hide them and going to be resisting arrest and standing in between them and ICE. It's going to get to that point, by the way, if this keeps on going on. Can you see how this is a more efficacious way of doing things? That's what I'm saying. And, you know, it's actually really surprising. The thing that I was afraid of when I released my video was me just flatly saying I'm in support of deporting all illegal immigrants. I think that was the first time that I said that in a short form. I was actually scared, because, you know, a lot of my friends are liberals and they disagree and they're going to think, you know, I'm an evil person or something. I was actually surprised at how much backlash I got from people on the right about it. And look, it's not about sides or tribes. I'm like, you know, I'm just myself, but like, I don't even think people understand what I'm saying. Like, people are saying stuff like, oh, you're blaming Trump. I don't care about blame. I don't care about sides. Seriously, I care about the mission. Like, let's do the right thing so that we can all have a good life. I don't care about sides. If Biden had been a great president, great, I would have voted for Biden, but he was awful, so I didn't. Get out of sides. Like, this weird tribalism and loyalty to elected leaders. These guys are our servants. So anyway, that's just like a personal thing I gotta get off my chest. Like, it's just weird to me. And people, it's like they watch the video, and I get it, because obviously me as a creator of the video, I see everything that I say. I'm refining every sentence. I'm going through multiple drafts. I know every single thing I said and why I said it. But a lot of people, they just watch the video and they react emotionally, and then they say things that I've already said and say it as if I didn't say it. Or they'll say like, oh, well, you're like giving the violent protesters leniency. It's like, no, I said we should take a hard line. I'm not going to spend the whole video talking about how violence is bad. That should be obvious. I said it to acknowledge it, and like, I've got a bigger point, and I think a more interesting point to make. So again, I'm here for the nuance, and it's also okay if you don't agree with me, guys. It's totally fine. Like, I don't take it personally. I mean, that's not true. I'm a sensitive person. It's just, I don't like it when people are mean, but like, if someone's like respectfully disagrees, like, that's okay. And I hope you follow me anyway, because I follow people that I disagree with, because I like to expand my perspective. And I hope that's what you're getting out of me too. Not that I'm some black dude who's a mouthpiece for MAGA, and that's unusual. Like, I hope there's deeper reasons why you're listening, but some people it's just like whatever. So yeah, ultimately, this is about emotional intelligence, not to be a pansy, not to be Mr. Nice Guy, but because look at your own personal lives. When you tell someone what to do and you're forceful with people in your lives, how effective is that at getting the things done? Isn't it nice when you can just get someone to agree, or even if they don't agree, they feel like that you're treating them with respect, so they do the things that you want of their own volition? There's this quote: "It's like you catch a lot more flies or bees with honey than you do with this other stuff." You guys know what I'm talking about, hopefully. But yeah, you got to use the carrot and the stick. So we got to change the whole system. And again, if like there's 10 to 20 million people, some people, even if we gave them $10,000 and we removed all possibility of them getting work and we stopped giving them benefits, they would still stay here. And yeah, if we exhaust everything else, deport them. But in an ideal world, in my mind, the way that you do this is you say, hey, look, we're going to give you X period of time. And it should be very clear, it should be messaged very widely. If you choose to leave, this is how we're going to help you leave. We're going to give you money. We're going to give you a flight out. You get to go back to your home country. It's no hard feelings. You get to stay with your family together. I mean, we should do that anyway. But you get to plan and leave your affairs in order. But if you resist, after a year, we are going to forcefully ask you to leave. And that gives workplaces time to transition out their labor force from illegal immigrants to legal immigrants. Gives us time to fix our legal immigration system so that if we need legal immigrants to do jobs that these illegal immigrants were doing, then we can replace the illegal population with the legal population. And we just don't have to have every day be this gigantic, I'm not going to say the word, but this circus of fighting and people tweeting at each other, and Gavin Newsom's fighting with Trump, and Trump is calling Gavin new scum, and Gavin is saying Trump caused it. It's like, I don't want to see this. You know how you know when your government's working properly? When you don't hear about it. Like, I get that it's entertaining in a way. Like, let's all be honest, it's kind of entertaining, right? It's like reality TV. It's like, I don't even know what's going to happen next. It feeds on our emotions, but that's not a healthy thing, America. It's not healthy to get our entertainment from politics. It's not healthy to be stuck to the news and following things obsessively on X. It's not healthy to be diving through tweet threads about how George Soros is funding this protest. It's not healthy. None of this is healthy. So yeah, I would like some more harmony in this process. I actually think harmony will get us the result better. Otherwise, in 4 years, you know what's going to happen? This whole thing is going to come to a screeching halt when there's not enough political capital to force the issue. There's still going to be tons of illegal immigrants in the country. The right's not going to be willing to give them amnesty. The left's not going to be willing to forcefully deport them. It's going to be another talking point in another election in 2028, and we will be nowhere. So that's what I'm interested in stopping. That's why I'm speaking on these things. Thanks for listening. Hope you got it. Got a little heated at the end there, but I just got to get this stuff off my chest, right? This is like a therapy session for Kaizen right now. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening. I really appreciate those of you who, even when you feel triggered or challenged, you really don't like what I'm saying. I appreciate that you're willing to listen. And if you're in this chat right now, if you're on the stream right now, you're one of those people. Even if you hate my guts, like, you're here and you're listening. So I think that says a lot about you. So I got 5 minutes before I go. Sorry, I riffed for a long time. Hopefully I covered a lot of what people were addressing in the chat, but I'm going to try to get to a few comments right now. I'm going to prioritize people who are subscribers. So if you are a subscriber on X or on Instagram or on Facebook, I'm looking for you in the comment section. And if you want to prioritize me looking at your comments, please feel free to become a subscriber because it supports me. And then there's little perks for you. Like sometimes we do private Zoom hangouts and other stuff like that. Okay, let's check this out. Lots of comments. Okay, hold on. This is going to be more rapid fire, okay? Because I want to make sure that I get into a bunch of stuff. I'm going to look for the most nuanced thoughts. Heather asked, what are your specific suggestions then? I hope you stayed long enough, Heather, because I gave them. Still looking. Yes, Heather said it'd be more impactful to fill up the incentive to 5K or even 10K. I agree. I think we'd get millions of people leaving for that amount of money. That goes a long way in the countries that a lot of these people are coming from. We have to heal victim consciousness on the planet. I totally agree. It's like victim consciousness doesn't even serve the victim. You know what victim consciousness does? It's like, again, when we think about, if you look at the leftist worldview, everything is about power, right? And that's what Marx was about a lot, just descriptively. He talked a lot about power. Well, if the people at the top are in power for whatever reason, it could be competence, it could be inheritance, whatever it is. Well, the way that you invert the status hierarchy is giving power to the victim. And how does the victim get power? Well, the victim can get power through hard work and making themselves undeniable and as competent as they can. But that's really hard. You know what's not hard? Complaining. And we created a world where it's like you get elevated within certain communities by complaining the most. Where it's like, oh, because of how I look or the shape of my genitals or because I'm trans and people are not accepting my pronouns, I'm oppressed. So pay attention to me. Elon's Child is doing that all the time, by the way. I always get confused with the pronouns because I'm like trying to be respectful, but it's also like you're not a woman, like you're biological male. I don't know. Oh, God. It's so freaking confusing, man. Anyway, so Elon's Child, you'll notice Elon's Child, the ones who's trans, always out here talking shit about Elon. Sorry for the curse word. Always doing that. If your entire claim to fame is lambasting your dad in public, that's not the recipe for a happy life, but it is a recipe for getting social approval from people who are caught up in this paradigm of victim consciousness. So yeah, that's how victim consciousness operates, because it gives you this like shallow form of status. It's not durable. It only lasts as long as you're complaining and victimize yourself. It's not like working hard and making money and creating a strong family and being happy and taking care of yourself, taking care of your body. And yeah, it's sad because I see so many people in the younger generation who are afflicted by this nonsense, who instead of trying to be the best and be competitive and to win, they're focusing on all the ways in which they've already lost from birth because of who they're attracted to or what they look like. It's just not a philosophy of empowerment. So thank you for saying that. Annie, good comment. Thunderstorm, I'm not a political teacher. I do not have students. I'm just a guy who has a lot to say and says it, and people seem to like it, or at least be moved by it, whether they like it or not. Okay. Someone said, don't come on here apologizing. No, I think it's okay to apologize. If I make a mistake, I'll apologize. I said before, I shouldn't have said that I was at the protest because it was misleading. I should have said I was at a protest. It's like, if I make a mistake, I just say sorry, I move on. It's not a big deal. We don't have to have an ego around apologizing. It's like as if it invalidates everything that I said. It's like, no, I make mistakes sometimes and I'm a human being. And when I make them, I want to acknowledge them. I want to normalize like people like making mistakes. It's okay. It's okay. We all do it. We're human beings. So yeah, I'm going to apologize when I make mistakes. Oh, thank you, Crazy Horse. It's really nice to say. All right. Normally I don't like these comments. I feel like are trying to like bait me into a fight. But someone said, let me guess, not a single mention about Trump's illegal deployment of the guard without any coordination with the governor, instead just the violence, correct? Well, hopefully you were listening, and obviously I didn't do that. I condemned the violence. I identify what I think Trump is doing that's ineffective and bad and vitriolic and emotional. So hopefully you're listening. But when you make comments like this, it's like you're trying to you've already made a conclusion about what's going to come out of my mouth before it comes out. And that's a huge problem on both sides, and it really gets in the way of us getting anywhere. But yeah, I don't know actually if Trump's deployment is illegal. So like, I just haven't looked into it. And if it is illegal, then I hope the court shut it down. But I don't know if it's illegal. I know he invoked a statute, but I haven't looked into that yet. I think yes, if he had been able to just coordinate with Gavin Newsom, it would have been far better. I don't know why they didn't coordinate. I don't know how much openness there was to coordinating. I don't know if the National Guard needed to be sent in at the time that they were sent in. So these things I genuinely don't know, and I'm still doing my research because yesterday was Sunday and I normally take Sundays off, but decided to go to the protest. Okay, I hate to leave on a comment that's trying to entrap me and make me look stupid. I know what you're trying to do. So let me find a little bit more of a neutral or positive comment to end this. Oh yeah, I did actually. It was funny. I went to set up my tripod to record a video. And I think when you're at a protest, people assume that like we all agree, but I was there undercover, and someone gave me a little communist newspaper. It was very surprising. He was like, "Yeah, use it for your video or whatever you're doing." Um, and yeah, it was just interesting. I was like, "Wow, this is straight up communist literature," and yeah, I think there's like a growing affinity for these sorts of views, these communist worldviews. And I think it comes from a lot of victim consciousness. I think when people feel like they can't win, they would rather that no one win and we all be equal in outcomes. And that's what a lot of communism is. And yeah, I think it's all tied to the whole everything is about power and power dynamics and the Palestine stuff and everything. And just to be clear, like, I've already talked about Israel, Palestine. If you want to see my video, I have thoughts on like what I think the pro-Israel camp is getting wrong, what the pro-Palestine camp is getting wrong, what the pro-Israel camp is getting right, what the pro-Palestine camp is getting right. I don't want to like summarize that in like the 10 seconds before I log off here. But yeah, my issue is not what people are advocating for. It's the level of thoughtfulness or lack of thoughtfulness that's going into it. Why does a demonstration about deportations have Palestinian flags? Like, why is it a given that these two people have to agree? Can't someone oppose deportations but also not be waving a Palestine flag because they're just not that invested in the conflict? Or can't someone maybe even side with Israel and also be anti-deportations? Like, where's the nuance? Where I want people to just think for themselves and come up with their own conclusions rather than just default to the conclusion of the group. So I think that's the thing that was just interesting about getting that communist magazine or newspaper while I was there. Okay, guys, I'm sorry I'm not going to get to all the comments. I actually have a press appearance I have to do right now. I'm going to be on Redacted, if you guys know that, with Clayton. I think his name's Clayton Morris. I liked being on his show last time, so I'm going to be there. Terry says, hey, I love what you're doing. Thank you. You're welcome, Terry. And thank you to all of you who watched. This was a fun one. If you want to catch the replay, it'll be there on X. It'll also be on my YouTube channel on the live video tab. Please join my mailing list. My mailing list is a great place to get a digest of all of my videos because the algorithms control what you see from me, not me. So if you really like the way I think and you don't want to miss stuff, join the Nuance mailing list. I'm going to type a link to it in the chat right now. It's thatskaizen.substack.com. And then one final plug, if you like the way that I just view the world and you like the way that I treat people, I'm also a life coach. So I change lives for a living. And this is probably going to be the last year that I do it because hoping that at the end of the year, the finances will be such that I can fully focus on thought leadership and messages. And actually want to start doing stuff like going to college campuses and helping students think for themselves and rather than just be a part of groupthink. But anyway, this is not a good pitch at all. But if you want support making major changes in your life, being more courageous, thinking more clearly, doing things in your life that will elevate your existence, feel free to apply to work with me, and I will be your one-on-one mentor. So you can go to thatskaizen.com for that. And yeah, it would be cool to work with one of you. So that's it, everyone. Have a great day. Try to unplug from social media. Be conscious of anything that is hijacking your emotional energy, because when we get emotional, it's very hard for us to be rational. We get into extreme, this black and white, this or that thinking, and that just doesn't serve anyone. So thank you for watching, and I will see you on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific for Nuance Live. Take care.